Hi everyone, Armoured Pants here, and I have another tank for you in the British Line Dynasty Tier 8 Centurion medium tank. And as always, we have a complete guide, and as always, we will start with a complete tech spec using blitzhanger.com, which is a great asset for all blitzers. And of course, this is a video into Corona support for those working at home, spending more time at home, where we're giving 6-digit codes away in the videos. Collect all three and email me at armouredpants@gmail.com, and you have a chance of winning a premium tank, helping you get through quarantine. As I said, there's 3 codes hidden in videos. Email me and subscribe, and you'll be entered into the draw, and we'll be giving away at least 1 premium tank, maybe more, depending on how many people subscribe to this competition. And there will be announced via this channel and on Facebook, etc. on 24th of March. Now, this video is a recap video. Both the codes I already gave are in here. There's no new code, it's the old codes, and there's a hint as to how to find the 3rd code, the video it's going to be in, and where to find it in the 3rd video this week. So anyway, on to our review. So the Centurion 1. So in terms of provisions, I would run black tea because that maxes the view range to 302, which is very good, one of the best in the tier. Only an RU, for example, has better, and it also helps with the reload, maxes out the reload. This is very typical of later British tanks. It has a weaker power to weight ratio than the Cromwell and the Comet before, but it has a good rate of fire like the Comet before. The top 2 guns are what we're going to discuss. There's a 76mm gun and an 84mm gun. Better DPM, it says, with the 76mm gun, but it doesn't really, because the actual DPM is much less due to the low pen than the theoretical DPM, which is what is listed. You get 226mm of pen with gun rammer, 171mm of pen on the lower gun. Now, muzzle velocity is 1020 in the top gun. 1020 meters per second. It goes up to 1326 with supercharge, which is pretty good. Muzzle velocity with APCR is 1658 meters per second. Be aware of this on your shell management because it is significantly higher than it is with AP, so the shell travels much faster, so it's much easier to hit fast moving targets, for example with APCR. So it's not only about the pen when you're selecting your shells, it's also about the muzzle velocity and how easily you can hit targets. Now, if you use the top gun, reload is 4.88 seconds with gun rammer, which is decent. It goes up to over 5 seconds if you don't use gun rammer. I would run vertical stabilizer on this because you fire a lot when moving, and of course supercharge, as we mentioned. Gun depression is 10 degrees, elevation is 18, so gun alignment is very good on this tank. And note the gun depression because we're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail as we look at the armor profile. The tank does 40 kilometers per hour and 20 in reverse, so it's slow for a medium tank at tier 8. But not only is it slow, it also has a very weak power to weight ratio, and that's a major problem for this tank. It also has poor traverse. So what does all that mean? Well, it means for a medium tank it's actually not that agile. It's not fast, it's slow to get moving, and has poor traverse. So it's not an agile medium at all, right? And therefore you need to adapt your play style accordingly. It's not going to play like a T-44 or a Panther II. You know, it doesn't have that agility, right? It's not going to play like a Japanese or Chinese tank. It doesn't have that mobility and agility. So therefore you need to adapt your play style accordingly, and we're going to discuss that in a second as to what to do. Now, looking at the armor profile, it has spaced armor at the side, which means it is going to help you taking HE and heat rounds. They are not going to pen and are going to do no or minimal damage on you. As we've discussed before, HE and heat explode on contact with the first thing they hit, so therefore they hit the spaced armor, explode, and therefore they don't do any or just do minimal damage to the main body of the tank. Now, looking at this tank, adding in the external modules, look at the gun depression, we see what the tactics should be in this. You get hull down, you have very strong turret, big gun mantlet, very difficult to pen, and therefore go hull down, and you can snipe away in this tank to your heart's content, and you'll see those tactics when we look at the gameplay in a second. It also has low dispersion, by the way, in this tank, which is 0.229. What does that mean? Well, it means at 100 meters you've only got a 22.9 centimeter deviation from maximum deviation from your target, from the center of your aiming target. That's really good. It means you have less chance of missing. So this tank overall, with its muzzle velocity, with its low dispersion, is a very good sniping tank. And with that very strong turret and a 10 degrees of gun depression, these are the best tactics for this tank, especially early on in the game while you wait for the game to unfold. It doesn't have the agility, it doesn't have the mobility of your standard medium tanks, so therefore play a bit more cautiously, especially when you're new to the tank, and utilize that gun depression and that strong turret and that good gun handling to be an efficient sniper and damage the enemy. Then later on in the game, of course, you can move out and do more exploratory, more ambitious maneuvers such as Circle of Death, etc., etc. And you'll see this as we look at the gameplay unfold, exactly what I do in that game. Now, I mentioned that you want to use the top gun. Why, when the theoretical DPM is better on the lower gun? Well, you only have 171 millimeters of pen. Particularly if you're up tiered, you really don't want to be trying to pen an ST1 IS8 or an E75 on 171 millimeter pen gun. So therefore, I would recommend, if you want better actual DPM rather than theoretical DPM, that you use the top gun, the 84 millimeter gun. Just my opinion, feel free to disagree, of course. Let's have a look at the gameplay. Supremacy game, it's going to be a mastery game, and it's on a rock field. Now, I'm going to move towards C because that is basically the standard medium tank channel on this. I've had a look at the setup, as I always do. I've got an RU-251 on my team. Hopefully he's going to spot. He's slow to move off. You can see, though, as I move off, that this tank, it's a big tank. It's big physically, in terms of its size compared to other medium tanks. And it doesn't have that mobility, right? You can see it's not as mobile as other medium tanks, right? But it does have some advantages, right? It has that good gun. There's a great example of the gun handling. Just smashes one right into the back of the T-54E1. So it has strengths that other tanks don't have, and it has weaknesses compared to other mediums, which we've discussed, which are mainly the mobility and the agility because of that poor traverse, poor power to weight ratio, and the slow top speed. But you saw there two examples of what it does have going for it, which is that excellent gun handling. Now, good start to this game for me as a medium tank player, right? I've moved up to medium tank channel, I've spotted up the enemy, I've helped my team by doing damage myself and spotting him up, relaying his position to my teammates, and they're able to clear him off. So perfect start in terms of medium tank play. Cleared off one flank, captured the base, and spotted up the enemy. Now, here is a perfect example of what we discussed when we looked at the tech spec, right? This is sniping from distance using that beautiful gun, that great gun handling, that high muzzle velocity, and you can see here just how good this gun is. It really is very good. It won't let you down. And when you're using the 84 millimeter gun, you have good penetration, even on your AP rounds. Fluffed that shot there, but that was not the gun, that was me. Misjudged the shot. And with, of course, that fast reload, you can afford to take spec shots like I did there. When a tank is a fast reload, you can afford to fire off shots on spec because you know that you've got a fast reload. So even if it doesn't go through, it's not going to be a disaster. Now we're in a bit of trouble in this game. We're tank down now. Again, look at that gun handling. Just eye of needle stuff over long distance, and that's really when you want your muzzle velocity in play, which is why I always use supercharge. And see here again, and I'm using the APCR here. Why? Because of that faster muzzle velocity over distance. It's a difficult shot, and I want to make sure the pen and it goes straight through. Another one there, normal AP round to the side E75. And again, that's just that gun handling in action, and I'm using the gun depression and the gun handling to great effect, and sniping exactly as we discussed when we talked about the tactics in this game. Of course, as the game unfolds, you need to move away from a sniping position and become more active. We discussed before, there's actually a sniping tutorial on channel, right? And we discussed before when does sniping become camping, and what is the difference? And basically, to my mind, the difference is this. Camping is when you're not actually affecting the game at all. You're just sitting there, you're not actually doing anything, you're not actually having any effect on the game. Sniping is when you're in a static position like camping, but you have fields of fire and targets, and you're actually doing damage, you're farming damage and helping your team to win the game. And of course then sniping is beneficial and should never be criticized for sniping. Camping of course is not. And sniping can become camping in that if you do have lots of fields of fire and then they dry up, you don't move, stay in that position, then you're camping. And camping is not good because you're not actively helping your team. So sniping good, camping bad. And don't let people tell you different. And if you are sniping and doing lots of damage and helping your team, don't mind people who accuse you of camping. They just don't understand the game, don't know what you're talking about. Now, in terms of the tank's agility and mobility, as I said, of course, it's not great to compare to other mediums, but if you're up against something like the Object 704, as I am here, it's agile enough. Because of its poor traverse and because of its lack of mobility compared to other mediums, I would recommend when doing Circle of Death that you hug the enemy tank, particularly if it's a heavy tank with a traverse that can traverse, unlike the Object 704 here, that you get as close as possible. There's two reasons for that. You're not going to get around them at a wider radius because your tank is slow with the poor power to weight ratio as easily as you would another medium tank. So therefore, getting close to them minimizes the amount of distance that you had to travel and therefore allows you to stay away from their gun. And secondly, when you're close up to them, you're going to present them a very difficult target, because what they're going to have to aim at most of the time, even if they do manage to align their gun with you, is that turret, and that turret is notoriously difficult to pen. So just a tip in terms of Circle of Death and getting into brawls in this tank. Mastery badge, almost 3.2k of damage. I didn't have the top damage, but of course I did have the max. I did have enough XP for me to be better than 99% of other players in the tank, and that's all that counts when getting mastery badges, is the XP. So I think a good example of how to play this tank, a good example of its strengths. So maximizing its strengths within the game, minimizing its disadvantages. And you can see there sharpshooter badge and master gunner badge, again highlighting just how good the gun handling system is in the Centurion. It is very, very good and something that won't let you down. And mastery badge delivered. Not so many credits as you can see there, even with the premium account. But overall, pretty good game. So let's have a recap on this very effective but quite different type of medium tank. Because it's not as agile, as we said, as other medium tanks, but it does have great other characteristics that other tanks don't have, which we discussed. I would use the top gun because I believe it has better actual DPM than the theoretically better DPM they say it has with its lower gun. As we said, it's not as agile as most medium tanks and it has poor traverse, so you need to be aware of that, be cognizant of that. I would maximize the view range by using black tea, and that also helps you maximize the reload, which is why I also use a gun rammer. I would use supercharge or vertical stabilizer. Gun rammer or calibrated shells both work, but I would much prefer to have the lower reload time. Watch your traverse, move those tracks if you are into a brawl situation to compensate for that. The rate of fire is excellent, so therefore you can take spec shots as I did there, and it's much better than other mediums, even better than the Panther 2 with its 5.5 second reload, and significantly better than the Russian mediums. Hold down, sniping, excellent tactics in this tank, really excellent. But it does have a different play style to other mediums. Mobility is limited, so you need to adapt your play accordingly. When you get into Circle of Death situations, you need to get in close for the reasons we discussed earlier. The power to weight ratio can get you killed if you try to take too wide a radius doing that. So cheers Mush, thanks for watching. I hope you found it enjoyable, I hope you found it useful, and I guess all that remains for me to say is pants off.